We are live for the Couch Warrior podcast. As always, I'm your host, Mike, and today we're going to be breaking down UFC London 2026, and it's a good card. We have 14 fights. Again, we had 14 fights last week. Now we're going to get 14 again. Hopefully, they all stick through. I was saying last week that it's been a while since we actually kept 14 fights together, and hopefully we'll do it again because most of these fights are good. As a fan, I'm excited for this card. I do like this card. I think it's a good one, but let me just move this a little bit. There we go. As a fan, I'm excited, but as a gambler, this is a tricky card, and I've been having a hard time coming up with bets that I do like and that I'm confident in. There's a couple that stand out. There's a couple underdogs that I want to bet and I might bet, but I'm not like crazy about it. I'm not crazy about the spot. So we'll talk through everything. We'll go through the card as always. Hop in the chat, talk to me. It's always more fun that way. I see most of you guys are on Twitter, not on YouTube, but that's fine. I think you can still hop into the live chat on Twitter. I think we'll still see your comments, so do that and retweet, like, follow, all that stuff. It really, really helps out, especially if you do it on YouTube. Very helpful then. And all right, let's recap last week. It wasn't the best week, and then we're going to jump into this card. So for last week, I had three money lines. They were all big underdogs. We had Su Young Yu, who won the first round, then got hurt and submitted. We had Balajioki, who got rocked in the first round, had a great second round, and then just gets knocked out with a really nice shot in the third. And then we had Harry Hardwick, who was getting his butt kicked, but at the same time was firing back. And like when it was such a crazy fight because he was just getting teed off on. He would take it. He'd throw back. Whatever he threw would not really wobble Marwan, but get him to the point where he had to step back himself. And then you see Marwan going back all the way back against the cage on the opposite side. And it was just back and forth. It was a great fight. Honestly, not the worst bet, but his defense is just too bad. And his body held up. His chin held up, but his jaw did not hold up. And ultimately, he got his jaw broken, which is just insane. First, his legs get kicked off, and he gets wielded out. And then this happens, a broken jaw. I don't know if this is the best thing for Harry Hardwick, but oh well. And then I had 0.1 units each on the Aspen KO2 and KO3. That didn't come through either. Petrino, he held up with the cardio. That read was kind of based on him gassing, and he was okay. It seemed like Aspen got a little tired too. And then I had Sosa by decision. That cashed. It was plus 290. It was actually a great bet, but I only had a half unit on it. So it was enough to make sure that the night wasn't brutal, but it still ended up being a losing night. I believe 1.61 units. So very similar to what I lost the week before that. And I'm hoping to get back on track this week. That would be ideal. All right. So let's jump into this card. I'm just like looking at myself because I hate when I'm not centered, but it is what it is. Put the OCD away. Okay. Let's pull up this card and let's get to it. I'm hoping to keep the show to about an hour as usual, even though it's 14 fights. I pulled it off last week and I would like to do it again. Oh, and we're all taped up this week. You guys were upset at me last week. I got a lot of comments and understandable comments that, I was saying that I hadn't taped. I didn't get to it. I made a point and I made an effort this week to actually get it all done, and I have gotten it done. So I can talk about everything fully. We're good to go. No needs for a final thoughts video, but the shorts will come out probably on Friday again, as usual. I did put them out on Saturday last week, just that's how it worked out. But ideally, I'd like them out by Friday, and that's what I'm shooting for. All right. First fight of the night, we've got Melissa Mullins versus Luana Carolina. Mullins, she's going to be 7-2-0, 34 years old, 5'7" with a 68-inch reach. Carolina, 11-5-0. She's going to be 32, so she's 2 years younger. Although she has been in the UFC longer, she's going to be the same height, and she's going to have about the same reach. I think a one-inch reach advantage. So really binary fight, honestly, because it's really like who gets their game going. They're the ones who's going to win. Carolina, very clearly the better striker, good kicks, solid punches, good combinations, and she's great in the clinch, which I think is going to be important here because when Mullins closes the distance and looks for those takedowns, most of them aren't going to come clean. Most of them are going to involve a little bit of clinching, and she's probably going to have to eat some knees for that. And she might not take body shots very well. We saw the Cornell, that's how she put her away. So maybe that's something that Carolina can use, that whenever Mullins closes that distance, she clinches and she starts ripping those knees. I think that can be a thing here. But with Carolina, the problem with her has always been the grappling. she's had moments even in the past before she's kind of been working on it that, it held together and she was able to beat wrestlers. She beat Lupita Godinez, although Godinez was up a weight class and it was very short notice. She had fought the week before, but still pretty good. She's a great wrestler. Stuff those takedowns, but more recently she's been looking a little bit better in the takedown defense department against Pudilova. She did a pretty good job. She defended the bulk of the takedown. She got taken down, I think, 2 times. She did get controlled about a minute each time she got taken down, but that's not horrible. You can still win a round. There's still 4 more minutes in that round, and Carolina will be the one probably doing more damage, at least on the feet. So I do think that in this fight, let's talk about Mullins first. With Mullins, she's not really someone I've ever been super high on. I don't think I've ever bet on her. I'm pretty sure I haven't. But she's solid, she's pretty good. Oh, one more thing I wanted to talk about with Carolina is that this is the second fight for her since she's come up to 135. The first one was against Montague, and had Montague win that fight just by being bigger, stronger, more physical, and being able to grapple, But Montague's not the most amazing wrestler, and she kind of just muscled Carolina down. So I think that while her takedown defense is good and has gotten better, that was my primary point before, I think that up a weight class, she is going to struggle a little bit also with the added physicality on top of the grappling. And Mullins is physical and Mullins is strong. Now, back to Mullins, again, not someone I've been historically super high on. I don't really think her striking is very good. I think at distance specifically, she's going to struggle in this fight a lot with the kicks. And when she closes the distance, she's going to have to deal with the clinch. That's also going to be tricky for her. But in boxing range, like she'll probably land some decent shots. She's not going to just stand there. She has a little bit of pop to her punch, but I don't think that's how she's going to win this fight. For her, the striking is only to set up the takedowns and then go in there and go for the takedowns. Against Zelezniakova, she did shoot. She didn't have as much success, I think, as she expected to have and as many people expected her to have. So I think after that, she kind of started to go lighter on attempting takedowns, but overall, that was a bad game plan. And if she does something like that here, she's going to lose. But if she goes for the takedowns, her wrestling's not amazing, but she is a pretty good wrestler. And once she is on top, I do like her game. I think she's very heavy. She's very difficult to get up from underneath. I think that her ground and pound is good. I think that her submission grappling is pretty good too. And I think that the major problem with Carolina's game is that when she's on her back, she's not very good and she can struggle. She can get stuck. And I think against bigger, more physical women now at bantamweight, that's going to become more of a pronounced issue. So for me here, I say it all the time. If I have a fight that I consider very close, it's binary, it's a close line, I'm going to side with the grappler probably 8 times out of 10. And this is one of those 8. I am going to side with Mullins. Not the most confident pick in the world, but at plus money, she is very tempting. I haven't made any plays yet. I'm going to wait it out, but because I do need a little bit more. But overall, I do like her here. And she's also the one fighting at home, which isn't definitive, but it does help. All right, we got another ladies fight right after. We've got Shanelle Dyer. Oh, real quick. What up, Drone Rookie? Good to see you in here, my brother, and I appreciate that. One of my favorite parts of the week, too. Oh, and you posted it twice. Let's go. But all right, for this one, we have Shanelle Dyer versus Ravena Oliveira. Dyer, 6'1" and 24 years old, 5'6" with a 65-inch reach. Ravena Oliveira, she's going to be 7'3" and 29 years old, so she's 5 years older. She's going to be 1 inch shorter, and she's going to have about the same reach. So first off, I want to talk about Dyer a little bit, just because I've been hearing some interesting things. Like, look, I respect dog hunting. You guys know me if you watch my show. I mean, I had 3 plus 200 underdogs last week as my only money line plays. I understand dog hunting. I get it. I get the desire. I get that it's a profitable thing if you can do it well. But you don't have to like completely just gloss over things or like twist things to make yourself feel better about the dog shot. Like you either feel good about the dog shot or you don't, and decide what to do with your money accordingly. But like with this fight, I've been hearing about Dyer that she's such a big favorite, but she lost her last fight. She got knocked down 3 times by some lady. She got knocked down. And before that, she got into a split decision. Okay, like just tell me that you don't watch the actual fights without telling me that you don't watch the actual fights. Ferro, is she a champion? No, she's not a champion. Who knows one day, but probably not. But she's a good fighter, and she has a lot of power. She has a lot of power. That woman hits really hard for the weight class. It's not a heavy weight class. It's strawweight. It's 115, and she got knocked out. She got 3 knockdowns in one fight. That lady hits hard. And Ravena Oliveira does not hit hard like Faro, and she's not even a similar striker at all. Okay. Second, the split decision with Scatizzi. Is that the best look in the world? No, it's not. Scatizzi's not great. But Scatizzi is also an absolute dog. She's very durable. She's very hard to get out of there. And she's somebody who's going to keep moving forward, and always she's going to throw stuff. Against Dyer, first of all, it should have never been a split decision. That was just a bad judge. What can you do about it? It happens. Okay. Second off, like I personally felt like Dyer won that fight pretty clearly. I personally thought you can easily give her every single round. I don't really understand how you even give a 29-28 scorecard to Scatizzi. But regardless, whatever you want to say, even if it was a split, there's deservingly a split. There was one round where you can debate. Okay, fine. Or 2 rounds you could debate. Fine. Ravena Oliveira doesn't fight like that. She doesn't pressure forward. She doesn't take your shots and keep moving forward to give them back. She doesn't do that. What Ravena Oliveira does in the stand-up is just throw a 1-2. That's it. When I turned on her tape today, literally the first fight, it was the most recent one, the Luciano. She throws the first 1-2, and I was like, oh, okay. That's crisp. That's better than I remembered. And then she throws it again. I'm like, okay, good. She throws it again. Okay. And then again, and again, and again. And that's all she's throwing. That's it. The 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, overhand. 1-2, 1-2, just over and over again. And like I like it. I say all the time, like if you have good takedown defense, solid offensive wrestling, good cardio, a 1-2 and a jab, I'm gonna bet you if you're an underdog or if you're, in a close line. But just that is like that's not gonna do it. It's not gonna do it against Dyer. Dyer is a good striker. Dyer's very technical. Dyer's good at maintaining her range, managing the distance. Yes, she got caught 3 times by Faro, but again, that's a very big power puncher and a good fighter, whereas I don't think that Oliveira is there, and I definitely don't think she has the power, although she did come down from 135, but it doesn't seem like she has any power. And it's just like I think that Dyer is going to outclass her on the feet by a pretty significant margin. And I don't think Oliveira is going to do that thing where she's going to be pressuring, something like what Scatizzi did, where you can maybe give Scatizzi rounds because she was moving forward. She had good optics and she landed big shots. You're not really going to see that out from Oliveira. So on the feet, I think it's Dyer. And then it's like, okay, can Oliveira maybe grapple her? Maybe she could actually. But first of all, her wrestling's not great. It's decent, but it's not great. Can she take her down? Maybe. But again, I haven't seen Dyer's takedown defense tested a ton. From what I have seen, my inclination is that she can stuff takedowns, and from somebody like Oliveira, she's going to. Again, I can't completely be super 100% confident about her offer back, but again, I don't think Oliveira is that great on top. I think that if she struggled that much in the grappling with a Muay Thai fighter in Lisboa, it's not going to be much different with Dyer. And I think that Dyer is going to be able to get back onto her feet if she does get taken down. That's just my gut feeling from what I've seen of the counter grappling of Dyer and from the offensive grappling of Oliveira. So for me, I do think Dyer is going to get it done. Do I love the price tag? No, but I also think it's probably fair. Oliveira, a little gassy too. Dyer, great cardio. I know that Luciano is a good prospect, but she's a striker who struggles with the grappling in her own right. And to get taken down by her, like not just taken down, but taken down easily and then getting submitted, really not a great look. So, sorry, just had to, okay. So for me, it's like, I think the price is fine. I think she's going to get it done. I lost my train of thought there for a sec. But all right, moving on, we've got Shem versus Abdul-Kareem Al-Selwady. Shamrock, he's going to be 12-2-1, 32 years old, 5'11" with a 73-inch reach. On the other side, Al-Selwady, 15-4-0, 30 years old. He's 2 years younger. He's going to be 3 inches shorter, and he's going to have okay, I have to do math now. He's going to have a 6-inch reach disadvantage, but it's not really going to matter because Shamrock is not a guy who's going to come out there and use that reach. He just doesn't. Weird fight. Weird fight for a couple of reasons. First off, it's weird because Abdul-Kareem Al-Selwady has been out for 2 years. And I wrote down the reason, but I forget. So I'm going to pull it up. Because I feel like it was an injury. Okay, it was injury, actually. So been out, this is what I wrote down. Been out for 2 years and has pulled out of 2 fights. Spine injury caused a pullout in 2024 against Guram. Undisclosed medical issues was the reason he pulled out against Camilo in 2025. Okay, so it was injury related stuff. So he has been out for 2 years. The most recent reason, the one that he pulled out from Camilo, we don't even know what it actually was. If you do know, hop in the comments, tell me. That'll be sick. But even if he was perfectly healthy, it's not great to be gone for 2 years. I don't think that's a good thing. And with him, we barely have even seen him under the UFC banner. You know, it feels like we have because he's been signed for a while, but we've only seen him on the Contender Series against Harry Hardwick's brother, George Hardwick, and we saw him against Yoick in the fight that he lost. It was 1-1 going into the third round, and he just got caught. You know, he got caught. He is a little bit chinny. He's been knocked out 4 times now, so that's another thing that's a little not great. You know, he's been out for 2 years. One of them was a spine injury. The other was an undisclosed medical issue, and he's chinny. So those are problems. And with Shamrock, I mean, the only real problem is that he got signed to the UFC. He made a hype video, and then he pulled up in his debut and did nothing. He didn't do anything. I'll give him credit. I think I know what happened. I could be wrong. This is just my guess from what I know. But I think that he was going into it. He knew who Evloev was. He probably heard about the betting line, that he was a huge underdog. He knew that Evloev was a guy who comes out here and grapples. He's a wrestler. And I think he assumed in his head that, hey, if I can just stuff these takedowns, I got this guy. I can outstrike him. He's just a wrestler. That's all he has. And I think he hyper fixated on the takedowns. He did a fantastic job stuffing them. But then he didn't do anything on the feet. So I think he just completely overthought it about the takedowns. And I think part of the issue is that he has a kick-heavy game. He doesn't have a lot of boxing. His boxing, I saw somebody posted on Twitter about the fact that it looks like RDR. It does look like RDR striking, honestly, with the hands. Even with the kicks, it's very similar game plan on the feet. But I think the way he does it is he uses kicks because he's okay with being taken down, because he has really good jiu-jitsu and really good grappling. But against Evloev, he wasn't okay with being taken down. So I think that created a kind of problem for him, because it was like, okay, I have to stuff these takedowns. That's the most important thing. And he started to stuff them, and I think it clicked in his head. He was like, okay, but now what? I can't throw the kicks. What if he takes me down? And he was still throwing them, but that was kind of it. He was very tentative compared to his other fights. And that's my best guess as to what happened, because it was uncharacteristic, and it was not a great performance. There was one moment in the third round where he actually got Evloev down, and not only did he get him down, he immediately slid into full mount. And that's something I really like about the guy, is he's really slick on the ground. He's a great, great grappler. Is his wrestling the best in the world? No, a lot of it is based off of trips. But once he gets you down, or once he gets into a grappling exchange, whether it's you taking him down and he sweeps, or him taking you down, or just something tricky off the fence, once he gets you down there, he's very dangerous. He does have a very good back take. He can adjust well, even if he's out of position. And he's a tricky guy to deal with overall. Very similar to an RDR. He's just a tricky person to deal with, although you can point at certain things. You know, obviously, if you can keep the fight 100% on the feet and box with him, you will beat Shamrock. But with Al-Selwady, I don't think he's even close to the level of Evloev, and realistically anything. I guess maybe the boxing. Maybe he's even a better boxer than Evloev. I guess it's possible. Evloev's not really known for the hands, but it's really just a jab, a couple nice shots, a little short combinations, and just moving. You know, lateral movement, land those shots, land the leg kick, move. And I guess it could work against Rock here. I mean, if Shem's moving forward and trying to find those kicks, but he constantly has to chase, it's going to be hard to get the kicks off if you're chasing the entire time. And I guess it could be hard to initiate the grappling if Shem's going to be the one who's trying to shoot the takedowns and go for them. So I guess the footwork can help in that regard. But to me, I feel like if you're betting Al-Selwady, you're betting on him to come out there, jab in 1-2 and circle for the entire fight and stay safe, and for him to be fully okay from whatever injuries and undisclosed injuries that he's had, or medical issues that he's had. You're betting on his chin to hold up. I know that Shamrock's not the most powerful person, but he does kick well. His kicks are fast. And would anybody be surprised if he landed a head kick and put Selwady away? I don't think anybody should be surprised. And I also think he can catch him with the knees, because Rock's pretty dangerous in the clinch, and he does have good clinch knees. So it's like, to me, just feels very risky to back Selwady. I get it. It's not the most Doesn't feel very comfortable putting money on Shamrock either after his last performance, but I do maintain my opinion prior to that debut that he is a good fighter. He's not going to be champ, but he is a good fighter, and I do think he's going to be somewhere in the mix in the division. Again, not in the mix of the championship belt, but he's going to be around. I don't think he's going to be like a couple fights lost and cut. It's possible that he will be. It's happened before, but I personally don't think so. And for this one, it's really tricky to really game it out in my head on how it's going to play out. But I lean towards Shamrock. I lean towards him finding those moments, landing those big shots, mixing in that grappling, catching something on Selwady. I don't necessarily think he's going to finish him. I kind of think we're going to go the distance, but I think he can get close, and that's going to be scored. And Selwady, he's a good offensive wrestler, but Shamrock just showed really good takedown defense, whereas you go the other way around, I think Selwady can be taken down, and Shamrock, he's not the best wrestler, but he's tricky. And he's very big and very lanky. So I do think he can get Selwady down. And if he does, I think Selwady could be in trouble as well. So overall, I'm going to go with Shamrock. I didn't love that. I mean, it's a joke. I get it. Somebody on Twitter posted something about betting Shamrock, and Shamrock was like, it's a lock, or take it, or like put the house on it, something like that. And I hate that stuff because I believe in jinx. So I did not like that, especially because I'm considering a rock bet. But I'm going to leave it alone for now, and we can move on. Next up, we've got Louie Sutherland versus Brando Pericic. Sutherland 10-4-0, 32 years old, 6'3" with the 76-inch reach. Pericic 5-1-0, 31. He's 6'5". He's 2 inches taller. Going to be 3. He's going to have let's call it a 4-inch reach advantage. I did want to catch up with my guy. What's up, JB? Good to see you in here, brother. All right, so for this one, really tricky fight, and I think this is going to be a really sloppy fight. It's going to be a classic sloppy heavyweight banger. All right. Look, I think Pericic is good. I do think he's got a good ceiling. I think he has a high ceiling. I think he's got a good base. But I think we're going a little bit crazy. And then we're going a little bit crazy based off of one performance, based off of the fact that he trains at City Kickboxing, and based off of the fact that he's big. Don't get me wrong. He is big. That's a fact. He's a good striker. You can tell where he trains. You know, the kickboxing's on point. The kicks are nice. The hands are nice. The combinations are good. He's pretty fast for his size, and he does hit very, very hard. But look, the guy's first of all, he has only 6 pro fights, right? So he's very green. He has less than half of the fights that Sutherland has. He's just not experienced. His level of competition, abysmal. Sutherland's recent competition, also pretty poor. But overall, I'd say that Sutherland has fought the better guys. And most of Pericic's opponents are my height. I'm being a little bit ridiculous there. They're a little bit taller, but like they're pretty short. And with Pericic, on top of just only having 6 fights, and on top of being green, and on top of, you know, them being poor level of competition, he's only left the first round one time in those 6 fights. And that one time he lost. He lost in the second round. And what happened in that fight, it was this one right here. Randall Raymond. So Randall, I don't know his age, but he looks kind of older. And he's decent for the regional scene. And he's clearly a pretty good grappler. He has 9 submission wins. That's good. But like, he's not great. And the way that fight went was Pericic came out there, beat the daylights out of him for 2.5 minutes, had him on death's door, and then just fell apart. He was like, oh, I didn't get him. You know? And then he had nothing. All of a sudden, the other guy starts landing. The other guy starts stringing together some success. And then in the second round, I think Pericic like threw a kick, or he threw something, and the other dude, Randall, he I think it was a leg kick. He did something, and he threw Pericic off balance, and then he just got on top of him, and the fight was over shortly after Pericic got submitted. But my point is, his cardio pretty clearly is terrible. And now you could say, I think it would be fair to say that maybe his cardio is not bad, right? Maybe he just almost got the finish, and he went too hard going for the finish, and because of that, he slowed down. That happens. That's normal. Yeah, that does happen. But it's like, okay. And if he didn't go so hard for the finish, but he was throwing, you know, with his usual heat, based off of the fact that with a little bit extra throwing, he gassed pretty much after 2.5 minutes. Don't you think even if he was a little bit more conservative, he would still gas within 15 minutes? I do, especially if he's pushed in any manner. And now, on top of all that I just said, you're also taking the guy from New Zealand where he trains at City Kickboxing, and you're flying him to London. And I looked up the flight today. It depends on how much you spent, but you can go. It can take anywhere from 24 hours to 40 hours. I'm going to assume that he's somewhere on the lower side, but even if it was only 24 hours, that's brutal. And he only got there today. It's Tuesday. So now he's got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. He's got 4 days left to, acclimate, to get. And it's not like he has to fight at elevation, so it's not the biggest deal. But while he was doing that, he probably had to cut. I know that he's a heavyweight, but I imagine at 6'5", he probably still has to cut a little bit. And he also has to get used to the whole time difference, all of that stuff. So he's going to be fighting relatively early compared to the usual start times for the UFC. So overall, I just think that whole situation is not ideal for someone like Pericic, who is green and whose cardio is not all there. And now with Sutherland, you have a guy who he's not the most skilled. He's not. The guy is not super skilled. He's not super talented, but he's a refrigerator with legs. He's a walking, talking refrigerator. He does hit hard. He's very durable, which is, I think, one of the most important things here. The second thing that's very important is that he does have cardio. He's gone 15 minutes 5 times. He did lose 3 of those, but two of the people that he lost to are quite good and would, I think, probably beat Pericic. I mean, Babley, I guess you could debate that one. But I do think Babley would win, honestly, if he doesn't get knocked out early. And then, what's his name? Keep forgetting, but I do know. It's at the top of my tongue. Slim Trabelsi, that's who. And that's the other guy. Really, really good wrestler who I think would easily beat Pericic. But, Sutherland survived to a decision against both of them. He was able to handle it. And I just think that overall, he's fought the better level of competition. I know that he's more experienced. He has more than double the professional MMA experience. And I think that in this fight, early, he is going to get the crap beaten out of him. He's not a very technical striker. I don't like the way that he closes the distance with these little flurries. I don't like that. I think that he's quite hittable in his own right. I think that at distance, he might struggle a bit, especially at kicking range. But once Pericic slows down, then I think Sutherland's going to start to land, because I think he's a better striker than Randall Raymond. And that guy started to tee off once Pericic got tired. And I think that Sutherland also, if he wants to slow down Pericic, even if Pericic isn't getting tired himself early, clinch him up and grind on him. Sutherland is big. He's had to cut to heavyweight before. And I think he could hold up Pericic against the cage. I think he could get a little bit of control. I don't think that's going to be scored much. I don't think that'll be super relevant to like a decision win. Maybe a little bit. Depends on the judges, right? But I do think that'll help slow Pericic down, which will be big. And then the other thing is Louie can low-key wrestle. It's against low level of competition, I'll be completely honest. But again, early maybe Pericic stuffs it, but how about after 5 minutes? How about after 2.5 minutes? I'm not so sure anymore. So look, I'm not going to pretend that Pericic can't get better and with his cardio. Of course he can. He's not that old for heavyweight standards. 31 years old. He might as well be 26. And he is at a great camp. But that Randall fight was only 2 years ago. It wasn't that long ago. It wasn't that many fights ago. It was 4 fights ago. And again, now the circumstance is also just really not great. You're flying him out a very long distance, and he didn't go early. So I guess I'll pick like Pericic round 1 KO, but it's a complete dogger pass for me. It's either Sutherland or you leave this fight alone and you get a better read on both of them. What's up, Bill? Good to see you in here, brother. Fight goes the distance +4. I don't hate it, but I can also see Sutherland getting the 2-3. Yeah. Yeah. His points is like +800, and I think it'll be like +1,000. I was looking at it, bro. I was looking at it today. It's +2,000. I can even tell you the prices on round 2 and round 3. Sub here. Sub is +2,000. Round 2 is +4,500. And round 3, I believe, was +5,500. And that was Bet Online. I looked at this because I was genuinely curious. Because look, I know Sutherland never has gone for a submission. I'm pretty sure. I know that's not his thing. But when you get, especially like heavyweights, or you see this in women's MMA, once they get tired and the knockout isn't going through, and their opponent's even more tired, sometimes the choke you just gotta wrap it around the neck, and that's it. So at plus 2,000, plus 4,500, plus 5,500, I mean, it's not bad. But all right, we can move on. I'm not going to waste much time on this one. We got Antonio Trocoli versus Mantas Kondratavicius. Trocoli, 12-6-0, 35 years old, 6'5" with an 80-inch reach. Mantas, 8-1-0. He's 26, so he's going to be 9 years younger. He's going to be 3 inches shorter, and he's going to have a 5-inch reach disadvantage. Not that matters. Trocoli doesn't use his reach advantage. Trocoli is now a poker player. That's what he's focused on. And Trocoli, I mean, look, if you're getting just guillotined 2 times in a row by Mansour and Gore, neither of which are known for the guillotine, like you're not trying. And look, theoretically, this price is ridiculous. There's not a chance that I'm betting Mantas. There's not. I like the guy a lot. I believe I chose him on the Contender Series. I did chicken out of the bet though. But like, the one way he's lost so far is grappling. Now, mind you, that's my guy Virgil. He is good. He is a good fighter. He's mostly a grappler. He'll probably end up in the UFC at some point. He's still undefeated. Maybe PFL. I could kind of see that for Virgil, but that loss isn't terrible. And even though he did lose that fight, I mean, even though he lost it to a solid guy, and I think that Virgil would beat Trocoli easily. He's a very good grappler. He's better than him. I think that it did still show that Mantas does have a deficiency in the grappling. He does struggle with that a little bit, and he is still pretty green. He's only got 9 pro fights. He's only 26 years old, and he does come from a striking background. So you can grapple the guy. And I mean, he's minus 700. So I can't blame anyone for taking a shot on any grappler against him at plus 500. But like, Trocoli doesn't really shoot. Trocoli doesn't even try that hard for the takedowns. Trocoli doesn't really try that hard, period. And for any moments that they are on the feet, and every fight starts on the feet, I think Mantas is going to kind of style on him. He's a much cleaner striker, much faster. I think he hits a lot harder. He's got very, very good kicks. His combinations are good. He makes good reads, and he's very dangerous. And I struggle to see Trocoli making it through the first round with him. So that's my prediction, but please don't bet on it. Like, don't parlay his money line. You're not getting anything out of it. I wouldn't be shocked at all if Trocoli took him down and submitted him. The guy can grapple, and he's very big and very strong, but it just doesn't seem like he cares. Another fight that I'm not going to spend much time on other than just ranting, because I'm going to rant. I did the same thing on the Contender Series for Felipe Franco, but let me catch up with the chat first. We got Michael. What's up, brother? If you grew out your hair, you'd kind of look like Virgil. Does he also have diesel eyebrows? I didn't really pay attention. Let me see. Okay. I think mine are a little better, but I guess his eyebrows are okay. So, yeah, I was looking at it too. I mean, I can't blame anyone. I can think of a worse way to lose $10, but all right. Anyways, we got Mario Pinto versus Felipe Franco. Pinto, he's going to be 11-0. He's undefeated. 28 years old, 6'5" with a 79-inch reach. Franco, he's going to be 10-1-0, 25. He's 3 years younger. He's going to be 4 inches shorter, and he's going to have a 3-inch reach disadvantage. So the one good thing I'll say is that maybe Franco can get some grappling going early here. Would a round 1 sub shock me? Yes, it would, but it's possible. I'm just going to put that out of the way, and now I'll go to what I really think. Okay. Felipe Franco is what happens when managers think they can get away with anything. That's what this is. Whoever his manager is, he's the same guy who owns that promotion that Franco's been fighting frauds in, that I'll talk about in a second. I don't know the guy's name, so that's why I haven't said it. But that promoter, I assume this is something he's doing for a while, because he also manages Jonathan, from what I understand, and I think also same for Mora. But Franco, with him, like I said, when a manager, all they think about is getting their fighter signed to the UFC so they can get 10 or 20 or 30% of a 12-12 contract. This is what happens. This is what happens when you care more about $2,000 per fight than actually building your fighter and getting them to a position where maybe you're going to make a lot more money. This is what happens. He found himself a big ripped dude from Brazil. Said, come to my gym. They taught him to grapple a little bit. They put him against guys who look like me. And by look like me, I mean literally like my height. I'm like 5'9". The guys he's fighting are like 5'9", 5'10", maybe 5'11" on a good day with good shoes. And like, there's him and his record and taping him for the Contender Series taught me that there's levels. There are actually levels to resume padding, you know? And I'll tell you the levels. So there's the resume padding where they're fighting guys who are very inexperienced. Some of them do stink, but they look like fighters. You know, they at least look like fighters. They got muscles. They're strong. When they throw a punch, it looks like a punch. You know, it looks like they work out. It looks like they go to training, but they're not good. So that's the first kind of padded record. You know, 0-0 fighters, but they look like fighters. 0-1 fighters, but they look like fighters. And eventually, maybe they get 1 or 2 wins down the line. The guys Felipe Franco is fighting are not fighters. They're not. They're 100% not. I promise you, at least a couple of them, they brought them in from the audience or from outside, because those people are not fighters. You can't convince me otherwise. You can't convince me that the majority of those people spent any time in a gym, because if they did, they need a better gym. So the fact that his manager thought that was the right way to build him, to give him not only just unexperienced or poor competition, but not real competition, to just completely fake his resume. I'm glad he got what he got. I'm glad he ended up losing to Freddie Vidal by submission in the 3rd round, which was like a plus 10,000 prop. That's what happens when you never face any semblance of adversity. You never even face somebody who has muscles, who can push back on you and be like, no. You never even face that in a fight. You have guys who just don't train, don't want to be there, are just getting a quick buck so they can go buy their beer and watch the next fight. That's what's going to happen. You're going to get to not even UFC level. You're going to get to the build up to the UFC, and then you're going to lose to a guy who also isn't UFC caliber and hasn't been signed. And then he goes back to the same regional scene, gets 2 more wins, and now they're flying him out to lose to Mario Pinto. It pisses me off. It really pisses me off. And you know what? If you listen to most people's breakdowns on this fight, everybody shares this feeling. It's really annoying to watch a sport and actually want it to grow and become a good sport. And then you see people like Franco, and I don't even blame Franco. I blame his managers. It's not his fault. If his manager was like, hey, we need to build you up and make sure you're good before you get there, I think Franco would say, okay, let's go. But they didn't do that. So this is what happens. And I think he's going to come out there and he's going to make a fool out of himself. I think there's a very small chance that he comes out there and is able to submit Pinto early. Pinto, realistically, he is a striker first. And maybe Franco can. I think there's a decent chance Franco can take him down when he's very fresh. Like, to be fair, Franco is very strong and very physical, and he is a decent wrestler and a pretty good grappler. But I think after that, that's it. And I don't think he's really going to take him down. I think Pinto's going to keep it on the feet and he's going to beat him up. The only thing helping Franco here is that he probably won't get finished early because Pinto takes a second to start to go. But I think the second that Pinto realizes, hey, this guy actually can't take me down and he's already falling apart, I think he's going to turn it up and then he's going to get him out of there. Franco has nothing for him on the feet. He has absolutely nothing for him on the feet. Doesn't stand a chance in the stand-up unless he lands a lucky shot. This is MMA after all. He could land a lucky shot. But I don't think he's going to. I think Pinto's a way cleaner striker, and I think Pinto gets him out of there. So we're going to go Pinto. We're going to go round 2 only because he takes a second to get started, and we're going to go KO. I think Franco has potential, honestly. Like, he's only 25 years old, and he's got the build, but I think that he needs a different manager and probably a better gym. All right, now we're moving on to a good fight. We got Nathaniel Wood versus Losene Keita. Wood, 22-6-0. He's 32 years old, 5'6" with the 69-inch reach. Keita, he's 16-1-0. He's 28, so he's going to be 4 years younger. He's going to be 2 inches taller, and I don't have his reach here. Let me catch up with the chat real quick, and then we're going to talk about this one. Drinking No Things. What's up, my brother? Good to see you in here. Are they going to sign Freddie Vidal? Why not, right? If Franco is good enough. I mean, Franco's not good enough. I think they saw an opportunity to. Honestly, I think they were getting pressured. I think they were getting pressured by Almeida's manager, camp, whatever. I think it's a mix. I think the same person does everything. But regardless, I'm pretty sure it was just pressure from Almeida and the people around him to sign this guy, because otherwise it doesn't really make a ton of sense. They probably could have gotten a regional guy to lose to Pinto there in London. But my other guess is maybe they were like, okay, they keep asking us to sign this guy. He looks cool and he has a shiny record. So if Pinto does beat him, and these are less than favorable circumstances, even if he was a solid fighter, built up well, even then, like, he's probably losing. But it's a pretty record, and it'll look nice on Pinto's record as having beaten him. So I think that's probably why they're doing what they're doing. They could do the same with Vidal. Like, Vidal will probably lose to the majority of the heavyweight division, but like, I give Vidal a better chance than Franco, just because he can actually fight for 3 rounds, and he tries hard, and he doesn't have the easiest fights, and his coaches are pushing him. So I think Vidal has a better chance in the UFC than Felipe Franco does. Anyways, back to Keita Wood. Really, really good fight. It's a fantastic fight. Wood is somebody who, on one hand, I have not loved this move up to 145 for him. I know he's still looking good. I know the durability is holding up, and the only time he's been knocked out is at 135, despite fighting lesser hitters than the people he's fighting now. I do worry that the physicality is a problem. We kind of saw that in the Naimov fight, but also Naimov had to cheat his butt off. And then, like, yeah, the durability is holding up, but he's getting knocked down all the time, and he's getting hurt all the time, and that's still a problem. But on the other hand, he's made me a lot of money because I've still backed him, and it has been very profitable because he's really good. Nathaniel Wood's really good, and he's very talented. And if you don't knock him out, good luck winning minutes against the guy. He's a really good minute winner, and he's got a really good fight IQ, and he makes good decisions. With Keita, you have a guy who I don't think is as put together as Wood, but he's also really talented. If you're not familiar with him, he was over at Octagon. He was the double champ there. He was at 155 and 145. It was 145 first, then he did 155. But that's kind of the thing going into this one is, on one hand, if he makes the weight, fine, which I think he's going to. But if he does, that's going to be a pretty big advantage, because Wood, he's a 135er who moved up to 145, and he's been struggling a little bit with the physicality of 145ers. Now he's fighting a guy who also fights at 155 and knocks dudes out cold, and he has to deal with him. So on one hand, that's good for Keita. On the other hand, though, it could be tricky because you have Keita coming in here. He did not make weight the last time. Not only did he missed egregiously, and Pitbull did the right thing not taking that fight, because Pitbull understands, he's been around in the fight game a long time. He knows that if he comes out there and takes that fight, there's an even higher chance of him getting knocked out by a guy who's extremely explosive, who is very powerful, and who really relies on having at least a little bit of a gas tank, because if he doesn't, he's going to fall apart the way he throws. And the weight cut probably diminishes that cardio a little bit. He missed it was like 4 or 5 pounds against Pitbull, then he would have been fine. He would have been fresh, and Pitbull understood that. So I think he did the right thing, and I thought it was ridiculous that Keita tried to blame it on Pitbull and was like, oh, but you could have still taken the fight. Shut up, dude. Like, you showed up for your UFC debut after a ton of hype, after a lot of us, including myself, said really good things about you. You missed weight big time and then started acting a fool. But I don't like that. I don't like that at all, and I do worry about how it'll be going into this fight. Like, what if he? I think he's going to make the weight, but what if he struggles to make the weight? What if it was not an easy cut? Then what? That could be a problem, especially down the stretch. That said, though, I think he's going to be okay in terms of cardio. I think his cardio is good. For a guy like him who's very explosive in every movement he makes and who puts a lot of heat into every punch, cardio still holds up. And he's been to the 4th round before, and he's gotten the finish there. And I do think he's going to be fine over 3 rounds. I think that when it comes down to it, Wood maybe a little bit more technical. I'm pretty sure he's more technical, but Keita's not just like a brawler. I don't want to make it seem like he's a guy who's going to come out here and just throw sloppy shots the whole time and rely on his power. He's actually pretty technical. He reads the distance well. He knows when to pull back when you're going to fire. He knows when to come back and throw his own stuff. He's very fast. Like I said, he has a ton of power. He'll go to the body really nicely, then upstairs. The combinations are clean. He's a good striker, too. He's not just really powerful, really explosive. He's also very talented and very good in the striking. Grappling, he's not a huge grappler, but he does have good takedown defense. He can be taken down, but when he does get taken down, most of the time he explodes back up. And I think against Wood here, Wood could maybe get a few takedowns, but I think he's going to really struggle to hold down Keita. I think the only way he really holds him down if Keita's tired. Outside of that, I don't think he's going to have success holding him down. So for me overall, I think Keita probably wins this fight just based off of hardware because the skills are close, but I edge Wood. But you add in the hardware, you add in the power and the athleticism and all that, and then I think Keita makes sense here. I think he's going to hurt Wood. I think it's inevitable that he hurts Wood. I think it's likely that he knocks him out. And I think I do think he's going to win, but Wood's not, if Wood doesn't go out, he'll make it easy. Not make it easy. He won't make it easy is what I meant to say. He won't make it easy for Keita, and he'll be in it every second that he's not lights out, you know? He has had good recovery so far, but I just don't know that those people hit as hard as Keita. I don't think they do. I think this dude he hits really hard. So for me, I'm going to go Keita. I kind of think he's going to catch Wood, but if he doesn't, I think it's going to turn into a good fight. I think Keita still probably wins. I think the decision isn't off the table for him, but as the fight goes on, it'll get trickier and trickier. And I can't blame anybody for taking a Wood shot. Maybe even I will. I'm still thinking about it. Probably not. Just because I do think more likely than not he's going to get clipped. I just don't think, I personally don't see him being able to eat these shots. That's where I'm at. But if he does, he can compete. And he could definitely win, I think. And plus 195 is already kind of tempting. Let me catch up with the chat and we're going to move on. Greetings from Miami, from Aiden. What's up, Aiden? Black Panther, Pink Panther parlay. I was actually thinking about that today. I'm good, but it's a good one. This is a tricky fight for Keita. I thought they tried to bring him along a little slow. We'll see how he looks here. I think they're banking on him knocking out Wood, personally. But I think they're also okay with Wood winning, is where I'm at. All right. I think this is the last prelim. Yeah. All right. We got Mason Jones versus Axel Sola. Mason Jones, he's going to be 17-2-0, 30 years old, 5'10" with a 74-inch reach. Sola 11-0-1. He's 28 years old. He's 2 years younger. He's going to be 4 inches taller at 6'2", and he's got the same reach. So I've always liked Sola. A lot of people were really harsh on him going into his UFC debut, and I didn't really understand why. If I remember correctly, I passed on that fight, but I've always thought pretty highly of him. Like, he's a good striker. He has good footwork. He has very good kicks. His hands are lacking. I think that's a problem that he's going to have to keep working on. But when he does let it go, they're pretty good, and he can string together combinations, and he'll rip to the body, and he can wrestle too. He can grapple offensively. He's not the most dangerous guy on the ground, but he's got pretty good ground and pound, decent control, and defensively he has very good takedown defense. But the bulk of his success prior to the UFC, at least what kind of built him up towards the end, was just beating gassy Russians. You know, what's his name? This guy, the one he went to draw, Imovov's brother. So he's not super gassy, but even him, he doesn't have the best cardio. But like Evloev, gassy grappler. And there was another one before that. I forget his name. Also a relatively gassy grappler. And, you know, those are guys who looked amazing when they were able to take people down. But when they couldn't take down Axel, they didn't have any answer for his striking because he is a good striker. That's why I was kind of confused when going into his UFC fight, people were calling him a grappler. He's like, he's not. He'll wrestle, don't get me wrong, but he's a striker from what I understand, unless I got it totally wrong. But I see him as a striker who has good defensive grappling and also has pretty solid offensive grappling, but I don't really consider him a grappler. But then he comes in against Rhys McKee at 170. I believe that was semi-short notice. It was put together rather quickly. And like, he looked good. The footwork looked good. He did get backed up a lot, but it didn't really matter because McKee wasn't really throwing anything of substance. It was kind of a weird performance for McKee. But Sola did well. He landed good shots. He was ripping to the body with the kicks. The output could have been better, especially with the hands. But overall, he looked good. And then he got the finish in the third round. I did think that the finish was that the stoppage was kind of an early stoppage. It didn't really make a ton of sense to me. Like, yeah, he ripped into the body. McKee went down. He started to throw punches, but like Herb called it like right away. It looked like he was fine to me. It's McKee too. Like he's normally fine. It was a weird stoppage, but I'm not going to take anything from him. Like it's still impressive that he finished McKee. That's good. Now on the other side with Jones, you have a guy who isn't the most technical dude, but he's a brawler. He does it well, and he is good. Like he's not he is skilled. Like he's not just a guy who's coming out there and winging completely with no technique. Like he does try to set things up. He's not as technical as Sola. I don't think it's really comparable, but he is still a solid striker in his own right. And I think the most important thing with him is he's going to pressure. He's going to pressure the entire time unless you put him away or take him down. And I don't think that Sola can take him down consistently. I think both guys can take each other down. I don't think either guy can keep the other there. I think both of them are good offensively. I think both of them are even better defensively. And I really don't see either guy really consolidating a lot of top time and really doing a lot of damage or doing enough to either finish the fight or, you know, it's sealed around if they also had time on the feet. But on the feet, just the fact that Jones is going to be pressuring and moving forward the entire time, that already is not great for Sola. He doesn't handle that super well. He doesn't handle pressure super well. And pretty much for any kicker, how do you beat a kicker? You crowd the kicker. You take away the space. If you close that distance, they can't kick as well. And I think Jones is going to do that. I think he's going to do that the entire fight. He's going to be moving forward the entire fight. And Sola, his movement is good, but he doesn't have like amazing lateral movement. You look in the McKee fight, and off memory, I remembered him circling a lot more. But against McKee, he kept planting his feet a lot of the time. He would just plant his feet and kind of hang out on the fence until McKee was done, and then he'd go back and throw a few shots and then move away. If he's doing that, I think Jones is going to give him a lot of problems because he's going to take away those kicks. Sola's boxing isn't great, and he doesn't throw the hands much. Jones, I think, is going to be landing on him. He's going to be throwing heat. Like I said, he's a solid striker in his own right. Also solid kicks in his own right. Leg kicks will be a good weapon, too, to further kind of hurt the movement of Sola. And that alone, I think, is going to be enough to beat him. I think in this particular fight, I can see a world where Sola wins, but I feel like he needs to fight really clean. And he needs to fight real, like, it has to be a performance where we all look at it after the fact and are like, that was really good. Like, that was really impressive. He's going to have to be moving. He's going to have to make Jones chase him. Like, Jones going to have to he can't just, try to close the distance. You have to actually cut the cage. Because if you're chasing the whole time, you're going to be losing the whole time. But like I said, Sola's footwork is good, but not amazing. It's not amazing. And I do think that forward pressure from Jones is going to work, and I think that's what's going to get it done. I think Jones is just going to land the bigger shots. Sola's going to be looking a little bit more technical out there, but Jones, I think, is also going to land more often, and I think ultimately he's going to win the decision here. All right, let's see what we got in the chat. Herb Dean is the gold standard. Manpreet Lock of the Night says Kurtis is a future champ. Would you say this is more bold than your Jubilee take? Okay, I'm going to reiterate that I never said Jubilee would be champ. And because of no. I think me pretending Jubilee was good is probably a more bold take. Because Kurtis, I don't think he'll be, but he could. He's only 23 and he's very talented. But Jubilee ended up being a really big flop, so I think I'm more wrong. All right, let's see. MMA bookies nightmare. I don't mean to be negative. Anybody who starts a sentence like this is definitely being negative, and the rest of your sentence shows that. I've never seen your channel before, but I already know you lose every week, bro. Well, the beauty of this is I'm actually fully third-party tracked. Every single bet I make that I can track is on there. And the ones that can't be tracked on that website, like live bets, I post about them on my Twitter. So I suggest you check out my Bet MMA. The link is in the description. Not the description. It's in my Twitter bio. I can also send it to you, DM me on any platform. And you can check it out yourself. I don't really have to sit here and explain it. I will anyway. Profitable over 5 years. 4 out of 5 years were profitable. I believe my ROI is 5% over that span. I'd love for you to show me yours. Let's see. Last year, I think, was the 9% ROI. I'd love to see yours. And yeah, that's all I got. You're welcome to just tune out. Pink Panther and MVP to ruin everyone's parlay. Sure. I don't know anybody who's parlaying Danny Silva, but yeah, anybody can hang out here. The beauty of it is he came in here fully knowing he was about to hate on me, and he only did me good on the algorithm. So it's all good. Appreciate you guys. That's what you want to see from the live chat. MMA bookies nightmare. You know my cousin. Oh, okay. I'm not going to fall for that. All right, let's move on. All right, up next, we've got Kurtis Campbell versus Danny Silva. Campbell is going to be 8-0, undefeated, 23 years old, 5'9" with a 72-inch reach. Danny Silva, 10-2-0. He's 29, so he's 6 years older. He's going to be 2 inches taller, and he's going to be 2 inches shorter. So he's going to have a 2-inch reach disadvantage. Sorry. So first off, I would love to hear from our friend over there, MMA Bookies Nightmare, who exactly is parlaying Danny Silva, because apparently Kurtis Campbell is going to ruin people's parlays. So I guess people are parlaying Danny. But look, for me here, I went into this one fully. I 100% had the intention of parlaying Kurtis Campbell. I was like, all right, I already know these guys. I taped Campbell not that long ago for the Contender Series. It was almost a year ago, but in my head, that's what I thought. I know what he is. I know who he is. I know how he fights. And I know Silva very well. So in my head, I was like, okay, I think Campbell's the goods. I'm going to parlay him, but let's go tape it. And then I taped it, and maybe I was cranky, but I got kind of annoyed. Like, Campbell is so talented, and he's so young, and he already has, 8 pro fights, I think 7 amateur fights. Where's the boxing? Where in the hands? He doesn't throw his hands. You see it in small glimpses against, very, very low level of competition. He'll throw, a solid combination, or he'll even rip the body. But, other than that, I mean, he really doesn't throw anything with the hands. There's no heat behind it, and he just doesn't throw the combinations, period. He's not even really using a jab or anything. He's really just not using his hands. And I didn't remember that. That's why you got to tape sometimes. I didn't know that was a thing going into the tape. So for me, that was a pretty big deal. Is all right. I'll talk about everything else in a second. I know he's a very good grappler, but if you're like a Khabib, and you're extremely physical and strong, and you can just close the distance without setting it up with your hands, that's one thing when you're going for takedowns. But Campbell's not that build. He's not. He's pretty strong, but he's not the most physical guy. I don't think that it's going to work at the UFC level to just dive in, close the distance without setting it up and go for your takedowns. I don't think that's going to work at a high clip, and he doesn't have the hands to set it up. And setting it up with a kick, it's less than ideal, I would say. And then on top of that, you have a guy in Danny Silva who, what's one of the best things he does is pressure. He pressures guys. He doesn't give them space to breathe. And again, I just talked about this recently. How do you beat a kicker? You crowd the kicker. He's going to be crowding the kicker. And if he takes away Campbell's only weapon on the feet, then what? That's kind of my issue with Campbell. And that's why I couldn't get to the parlays. It's I'm going to have to hope and pray that he gets these takedowns, whether it's a takedown or a scramble or some kind of situation where he just ends up on the back. Because I didn't really see it. And then just the wrestling, it's is Kurtis the best wrestler in the world? I don't think so. Like I said, I don't think he's setting them up well with the hands. And then just from a wrestling perspective, I don't think he's timing his entries super well. And then it's still kind of working against lower level competition, but you see these guys, some of them are stuffing it. There was one guy in particular, the Brazilian dude, I think he was able to stuff a few of them, Lima. He did still get taken down a lot, but he also popped back a lot. And he lasted, I think that was the 5-rounder that Campbell had. And that's the other thing with Campbell is, again, his jiu-jitsu is really nice, and he's very slick, and he does have good ground and pound, and he's very intelligent on the ground, and he does really cool things. There was one fight where he was in a horrible position, and he ended up taking the back anyways. It was sick. But his control isn't great either. Even against some of the worst guys he's fought, his control isn't great. A lot of those guys pop back up at least once, if not more than that. So that's another thing. It's all right, his best attribute is that he has really slick jiu-jitsu, and he is very tricky and unorthodox on the ground. But on the other, and he does have good kicks, but on the other, he's completely deficient in boxing. I think he'll struggle with a guy who's going to pressure forwards. And his control and his wrestling aren't the best. They're less than ideal, I think is the best way for me to say it. And he's taking a pretty significant step up too. I mean, Danny Silva is leagues and bounds ahead of anything that Campbell has fought, like a significant margin better. So, and don't get me wrong, I'm not a huge Danny Silva guy. I've never been. I don't know that I've ever bet him. I think I bet against him with Lucas Almeida, but I don't think I've ever bet on him. I don't think I touched the Vallejos fight, and then I don't think I did anything with the what's his name? This guy, Kulabau. I don't think I did anything there, but I've never been super high on him. But he's solid. He's a solid fighter. He's a guy who does have solid striking. I don't love that he has his hands down. I don't love that he was down 2-0 against Vallejos and he was emoting. I hate that. But I think he's just frustrated, and he's a human and it happens. But he does have solid striking. He does have very good output. He has decent power. In the pocket, he's good. And like I said, he's going to pressure. And I think that's what's really important here is he's going to pressure Kurtis, and we don't know that Kurtis can handle it. And we don't know what Kurtis is going to look like if he can't get those takedowns and he's forced to strike with this guy. I don't know if he's going to have an answer. Now, let's talk about Danny's grappling because that's probably the most important thing. And I think someone brought it up here. Steve. Kawhi, I don't know how to pronounce his name versus Silva. Now, if it makes me think Campbell is going to be able to get his game off here. Okay. So I saw that fight. That was only really the second round. And I get it. Like, there's not a ton I can say there outside of that was in 2022. So that was 4 years ago. And that was Silva at 25. Now he's 29. I would say he's about in his prime now. And I would say that his takedown defense probably has improved. I can't speak to that for sure. I can't be confident in saying that because he hasn't really been tested all that much in the grappling, aside from stuffing some takedowns from Vallejos. Vallejos isn't a wrestler. He's just very athletic. But I get it. But again, 2022, Kawhi, I don't know how to say his name. He's actually pretty solid. Like, he's not a bad fighter. Extreme Couture guy. His record's pretty nice. I know him from the regionals. And he's a guy who can grapple. He's a solid grappler. He's not as slick as Curtis Campbell, but he's more well-rounded than Campbell, in my opinion. So it wasn't the worst thing ever there. It wasn't great that he got controlled so bad in the second round. And don't get me wrong, guys. Like, it's 100% possible that Campbell can come out here and grapple him. I'm just saying that this line's kind of crazy. I guess I haven't actually said it, but like, this line's kind of crazy. And that's kind of what I'm just pointing out. Campbell is very good. Don't get me wrong. I think he has a really high ceiling, and I think he's going to end his career in a better place than Danny Silva. But I just right now, I think this is a little crazy to make him such a big favorite against a pretty significant step up and a guy who does pose some pretty significant problems for him. To me, that's a little nuts. I'm still going to pick Kurtis. I'm going to pick him by decision, but it's dog or pass for me. I'm very, very tempted on Danny Silva. I haven't played him yet. If you want my bets, my notes, my breakdowns, you can only get those at the House of Stims Discord. Link in the description of this video. But if I do play a side, it's going to be Danny, and I am close. I'm just trying to see if I can get like plus 200. And I'm also very tempted on the fight goes the distance because I don't really think they're going to finish each other. I think that maybe Kurtis can sub, but I don't think it's going to happen super often. And I don't think either of them knocks each other out. So I think that might be the best way to tackle the fight, but I need to see what the domestic lines are going to look like because right now I just have it was minus 130 on Bet Online, but money came in and they hit it down to like minus 155, I think. And then Better Rivers says minus 162. So kind of want better than that because I can see this turning into a war and I can see Campbell kind of sneaking something in, but I might just end up on the money line. We'll see. Let me catch up with the chat and then we'll move on. Oh, this is funny. Okay, we already pulled that up. Haters gonna hate. Oh, yeah. Trust me, bro. I'm used to it. I've been doing this for so long. I'm used to it. People forget, man. Danny Silva went to the decision with D. It was pretty impressive. Boy, did I hate that. I was literally taping it today. And in that third round, I'm just watching. I'm like, okay, dude, we're 2.5 minutes in. You're down 2-0. Where's the urgency? And then he's just like, yeah, bring it on, yeah. And it's like, have you been training with Daniel Medina? Jose Daniel Medina. The solution says Danny Silva money line. I agree. If we're talking about betting, let's be honest. Kulabau gave that fight away, and I still scored it for him. Silva missed weight too, Joshie. Yeah, I'll be honest. I never had a good read on Kulabau. I thought he was bad, and he wasn't, so I didn't have a good read on him. But that was a really weird fight. Line is wide, but big weight cut and flying across to London is rough. I agree. That's a fair point. I didn't talk about that. I agree. What's stopping me is less than ideal circumstances, as my friend Herb Dean just said. The fact that I do worry that Campbell, if he gets him down, he could consolidate control time just because he hasn't always succeeded at it. He's only 23 years old, so I'm not going to pretend just count him out completely. And that's really it. Because again, I think if he doesn't get the takedowns, I think he's in really big trouble. But at 23 years old, he can also make rapid improvements, and he is a talented dude, and he is a smart dude. But yeah, there's not much. At this point, I'm just kind of waiting on the price because I think more money will come in on Kurtis. All right, let's move on. Next up, we've got Roman Dolidze versus Christian Leroy Duncan. Dolidze is 15-4-0, 37 years old, 6'2" with a 76-inch reach. Duncan, he's going to be 13-2-0. He's 30, so he's 7 years younger. He's going to be the same height, and he's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. So Duncan finally putting it together. It's weird because I felt like the G-Rod fight, the Gregory Rodriguez fight, which he lost, was a lot more recent, but it was actually almost 2 years ago, which is nuts. But he's a guy who I've never really backed, or I've never really bet on him because he's just so inconsistent. I think he's very clearly, like, anybody can tell that he's talented. He's clearly athletic. He's clearly powerful, and he's clearly a really good striker, and he's really slick. And the way he sets up his angles, and the way he angles out, and the speed, and he's really fluid too, and he's very dynamic. He's just a great striker. But I think sometimes he thinks too much in there, and he just puts on stinker performances where he's not nearly urgent enough. I think that his grappling is still kind of a question mark, and I do think better grapplers could still give him problems. And I think with him, it's a very, very classic saying. He's a really good hammer, one of the best hammers, but he's a bad nail. And once he starts feeling adversity, that's when he starts to struggle. And in all his recent wins, like, he never felt that adversity. Pulaev, not even close. Eric Anders, no. And Tulio really never got any meaningful offense off against him either. Never really got any meaningful offense off of him either, really. So for me here, I've never really been a Roman Dolidze guy either, which has cost me a lot of money because he's proven me wrong time and time again. And he's proven to me that maybe minute by minute, he's not the best fighter, but he's extremely dangerous at all moments of the fight. And that has gotten it done for him. And don't get me wrong, he's also won fights by the minutes before, like against Vettori, and he probably should have beaten Vettori both times. I was on Vettori the first time. I think Dolidze probably won that fight. So it's like he can win minutes too, and he's proven me wrong a lot. But if we're being realistic, the most likely outcome, I think Duncan's going to come out here in style on him. I think this is actually a really good matchup for him, and a really good matchmaking if you're trying to build up Duncan, because it's a good name in Dolidze, and it's a guy that in theory Duncan should be able to deal with relatively easily if he can defend any wrestling. Because if he can defend any wrestling, Dolidze is far too flat-footed and far too slow to deal with Duncan. He's not going to be able to. It's going to look really weird, I think, even when they're in the stand-up, because Duncan's really fast and he has really good footwork, and Dolidze is that polar opposite. Slow and body, moving like this, moving forward, trying to grab you. That's Dolidze. And Duncan's going to be really hard for him to find, and they're in a big cage too, and Duncan's fighting at home. So realistically speaking, I think Duncan wins. Then the question is, okay, does Duncan knock him out or not? I don't really know. Dolidze is really, really durable, but if Duncan really gets it going, maybe he can get him out of there. But the one thing I want to say is, like, this, for me at least, I don't think I'm going to do it, but for me at least, it's a dog or pass. Again, I'm not high on Dolidze, but you guys know how I just said that this is probably good matchmaking, and that, I explained why. I think there is a small chance that it also ends up to be really bad matchmaking, because while, yes, Dolidze is all those things I said, he's also one of the most dangerous guys in the division, and his name isn't the most name value, you know? Like beating Delice doesn't do a ton for him in terms of pushing him up through the rankings, but Delice can kill anybody at any given moment. I mean, the things he's done to guys in the cage is crazy. He's really, really dangerous, and he can ruin your life. So it's maybe not the best matchup for Duncan, but again, I lean towards it being. I'm just kind of giving the other side of things here. And I think there is a world here where if Duncan reverts a little bit to what he has been in his lesser performances, where he's facing a little bit of heat and he isn't responding well to it, and he's not being urgent and he's not letting his shots go, I can see Delice walking him down. I can see Delice landing big shots, and I can see Delice taking him down. I don't think it's going to be easy to take him down, but I think if he gets him down, he could mess him up a little bit. His jiu-jitsu is really tricky. He is crafty. His control is not the best, but it's not terrible either. And he's got solid ground and pound. So it's definitely a dog or pass, but I also lean towards Duncan winning it. I'm going to lean decision just because Delice is really tough and really durable, but I'm not counting out a finish either. Before I move on, let's catch up with the chat real quick. I have never bet on CLD. I think he's great. Yeah, I mean, they've just made it kind of hard, and I missed the opportunity against Tulio. Anybody who made that bet against Tulio made a really, really good bet, and I did not. So I haven't heard anyone bring up Strickland's interview pre-Fluffy fight where he said Roman was injured and barely trained all camp going into the Fluffy fight. I'll be honest with you, I don't listen to Strickland's interviews. I can't do it. I can't listen to the guy. I think his personality is rough, but I mean, I get it. Even if he trained, I don't think that was changing anything. I don't. I think Strickland is a much tougher matchup for somebody like Fluffy than Delice, but I mean, I guess I can explain him not looking great, but I think that was just a really tough matchup. I don't think that was ever going to play out that differently. Again, it's MMA, and we talk about it all the time. You run a fight 100 times, it'll never be the same. Maybe it'll be a couple times, but I don't see that fight going too differently too often. I don't think the number needs to be much different. I just need to think about it more. I'm already close. I'm pretty close. He said, boys, pray for me. I'm going. Where is he going? He's going to Woods, Jones, Campbell. Probably getting good odds on that. I don't hate it. I would suggest to at least play Wood separately as well because he's an underdog. But I like it. Yeah, I don't hate it. I wanted to parlay Campbell too, and I can't do it after everything I said. But anyways, let's move on. Also, we have 921 of you, but the vast majority of you are on Twitter. If you like me, you like my stuff, you're enjoying the show, please hop onto YouTube. It helps more than Twitter does. Twitter doesn't give me a cent. I don't get a cent from anybody watching on YouTube now either, but it does help with the algorithm. I turn my ads on after the live stream, not before, so nobody watching on YouTube right now is getting ads, and I'm not making any money off of it. But in the long run, it helps me a lot more if you're on YouTube. So if you got a second, do me a solid, hop on YouTube and just turn on the show rather than watching on Twitter. Really, really helps out. And I guess we can do what I've done before. How about this? We'll do this. Anybody who comments in the live chat on YouTube specifically, who comments through the live chat, anybody who does that, I am going to put up a lotto this week. I haven't done one yet this year. I haven't done a single lotto parlay. I'll do one this week. And if it hits, 10% will go to one random person from the from the comments here, the live comments, not comments after the fact. And let's say it's a parlay that won me $2,000. I'll give $200 to one random person. I'll do a video. I'll put all your usernames in a little spinner. We'll spin it, pick the person. You'll DM me, and I'll send you the money if the lotto hits. So we'll do that. Make things a little bit more interesting. All right, let's move on. How many do we have left? We got 4. Okay. Next up, we got Io Baranevsky versus Austin Lane. Baranevsky, he's going to be 7-0 undefeated. He's 27 years old, 6 feet tall with a 73-inch reach. On the other side, Lane, he's going to be 13-7-0. He's 38. He's 11 years older. He's going to be 6 inches taller, and he's going to have a 7-inch reach advantage. But important to point out, Lane is moving down to light heavyweight. Why? I have no idea. But not only are they okay. All right, let's do this. Ready? He's already chinny. He's already gassy. He's 6'6" with an 80-inch reach. You're now making him cut from 265 to 205. What does he normally weigh in? Let's check. I'm gonna guess he weighs in normally around 245 to 250. That's gonna be my guess. All right. So last fight he weighed in. Did I say it or did I say it? He weighed in 245 last time. Okay. So he wasn't cutting weight, let's assume. So he was weighing in at 245. Now you're taking the 6'6", 38-year-old. He's not 28, young when it's easy to cut weight. He's 38, not far out from 40. You're taking the 6'6", 38-year-old who has fought at heavyweight. You're asking him to lose 45 pounds. And not only do you want to, 40 pounds. And not only do you want him to lose 40 pounds, but you want him to fly across the globe from the US to London, I guess halfway across the globe, and cut weight while doing it, because he has to already be cutting weight now. So you want him to do all that and then be okay? No, they don't. That's why they're doing this. They want him to come out there and look horrendous and get knocked out. The fight might get canceled. I think that there's entirely a solid chance that he doesn't make the weight. Again, this is I didn't even realize how ridiculous it was until I started saying it out loud to you guys. It's really ridiculous. He's 38. He's 6'6", and I don't think he's done this cut before. And if he has, it probably was a very long time ago. Let's check. From what I remember, he's always been a heavyweight. He's a big dude. Yeah, he's always been a heavyweight. How about amateur? It doesn't say on his amateur because it was so long ago. No, heavyweight too. Yeah, it's so crazy. They're flying him out to London, and he has to lose 40 pounds for the first time and make 205. He's going to get chinned. He's going to get chinned. I think Ewo is a disaster waiting to happen for the Parlay gang. I think that he is talented, but I don't think he's the greatest ever. He's not really stringing clean combinations on the feet. He's more of a big power shot guy, swings wild. He's explosive. He's powerful. He's young. He'll maybe learn to put together combinations, but right now it's not there. He is relatively chinny. He got dropped twice last fight. He's very hittable, even if the chin's great and Austin just rocked him, landed hard. He is very hittable. That's a fact. And he's a good grappler. Yeah, he is a good grappler. That I'll give him. But he's a disaster waiting to happen, I think, because people are already overhyping him. And I think he's going to win this fight in big fashion. I think he's going to knock out Lane. And I think maybe it's the next fight. Maybe it's the one after. But I think sooner or later, probably sooner rather than later, we're going to get him against a guy who's decent or pretty good. And EO is going to be like minus 500. And I think we're going to get a really good opportunity. So for my future interests, I hope that EO wins this fight. And I'm pretty confident that he will. But look, don't parlay this line. Don't. It doesn't make any sense to parlay him at minus 600. What are you going to gain from it? Your parlay will go from minus 200 to minus 165, minus 175. Just lay the minus 200. Because look, but if Lane makes the weight, he's going to be massive. He's going to be massive. And he does hit hard. You can't take that away from him. And he is an athletic guy. You can't take that away from him either. So can he rock Ewo? 100% he can rock Ewo. If he makes it to that cage and is okay and has at least a round of cardio, he has a chance. A small chance, but he has a chance. He's not completely out of it. But outside of that, I think he's going to get smoked here. I do think he's going to get smoked here. I would just really be careful playing Ewo. I'm not saying to play Lane. I'm not betting Lane. There's no way. But just be really careful. We'll go KO1. Could be a sub. I don't know. Okay. All right, just give me one moment. Okay. All right, next up, we've got Michael Venom Page. I don't know why I don't like saying his name without the Venom. Against Sam Patterson, MVP. He's going to be 24-3-0, 38 years old. He's 6'3" with a 79-inch reach. Patterson, 14-2-1. He's 29. He's going to be 6'3" as well. And he's going to have a 1-inch reach disadvantage. So for me, I went into this fight thinking I'm going to like Patterson. And I left the tape thinking I still kind of like Patterson. but I missed the plus 200. And now that he's sitting at like plus 155, I don't feel great about it, about a bet, because look, if he takes down Page, he's got a huge advantage. He's probably one of the best grapplers Page has fought, honestly, ever, in terms of just pure jiu-jitsu, and especially in the UFC. I think he's better in the jiu-jitsu than Ian Gary. So if he can get down Page, I think he can sub him, or I think he can do pretty significant damage and win rounds. And don't get me wrong, on the feet, he can maybe do some decent work, but I do think he's in a struggle. One thing I want to talk about real quick is, so you guys know the whole fell in love with his hands narrative. If you've been watching me long enough for years, you know that there was a time where you tell me that narrative, I'm going to tell you to shut up. I would tell you it's not real. Not real. People don't, that's a stupid thing people made up to say. That's what I'm pretty sure I've said the exact same thing that I just said. I've come around to it. I think that it's a fact that sometimes guys do decide, hey, I like this thing called striking. I'm going to do that instead of what I'm strongest at. I think that's a fact, and I was wrong originally. I think there's a small chance Sam Patterson might come out here and be like, I'm him. I just knocked out 2 dudes in a row in the first round. Like, I'm him. I'm going to knock out an MVP, and I'm going to show everybody that I'm not just a grappler. I'm a striker too. I think there's a small chance of that. I don't think it's going to happen, though. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that Sam Patterson is an intelligent dude. I don't think he's driven by ego. I think he's going to be okay. And I think he's going to be like, okay, I got some knockouts. My hands are getting solid. I don't have to strike with Michael Page. I don't have to do that. I think he's smart enough to do that. And I think that he is going to look for the takedowns. I think he's going to sell out for him. I think that's smart. He needs to. Because in terms of footwork, he's cooked. In terms of striking, he's going to struggle. The big thing is the footwork, because Sam is pretty flat-footed and he's pretty basic in his footwork. He's going to move forward. He's going to follow. And MVP is really, really hard to track down. He's a really difficult dude to find. And I struggle. Like, this is kind of what got me off of the dog play, at least at the current line, is that I'm watching MVP and I'm trying to imagine Sam closing that distance. And I can't even imagine what it looks like. I feel like Sam's just going to walk in there like this with the chin high up as usual. And he's just going to get clipped over and over again. And I think he might get knocked out. I'm going to answer JB in a second, but that's kind of what's holding me off. And also the fact that I don't think MVP's takedown defense is bad. I think that off his back, he can be a liability. And that's why if Patterson can get there, MVP will be in trouble. But actually getting him there is also the challenge, because I don't think his takedown defense is bad. And Sam is also pretty, he's pretty trip heavy. He's not doing a lot of like single legs and double legs. He's more trips. Now, Jared did get down MVP with the trip. I think it was round two or three. He got that trip and he got him down, and he did keep him there. But Jared's also a 185er, and he's huge. It's like 3 times the size of Sam Patterson if we're talking like thickness. But in theory, the trips of Patterson could work. They could work, and if he gets him down, MVP will be in big trouble. But I just worry that if he doesn't get him down, like, Sam's going to be in pretty significant trouble. Whether he gets knocked out or not, I think MVP, I think there's potential MVP can make him look foolish on the ground. And like you hear people talking about it this week, that the gap on the ground is just so wide. I think the gap on the feet is equally as wide. Like, Sam has gotten better, sure. But like, let's also kind of sit down for a second and look at who we're talking about. You know, I mean, we're talking about Trey Waters. He's a solid fighter. He's not MVP. He's a long-rangey striker, but he doesn't have the footwork, not even close. Danny Barlow does not have the footwork. Kiefer Crosby didn't knock him out, but still, you get the point. Like, I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but overall, like, it is still a dog or pass. I don't think I can get to MVP at this point. He is 38 years old. I haven't talked about that yet. He's 38. I do think he's towards the tail end of his career. And he's been not super inactive, but also not as active, at least as, I guess, 2 times a year is fine. But he's talked about it before, that he's trying to get more fights and he's not getting them. And I've posted about it before. My theory is that they haven't been giving him fights at 170 because you could only really give him the top, right? Because of what he's done already. Not the top, but like somewhere there in the rankings. And you don't want to ruin all your prospects. And I'm not saying that he would come out there and beat all of them, but he'd be live to beat just about all of them. And then, you're at risk every time of losing a prospect to a guy who's 38 and who you can't market for much longer and who you're not going to want to push to a title because he's 38. So I think that's why it's been hard to matchmake him at 170, not because they can't get people to agree or anything like that. I think they don't want to risk it. I think Prates would fight him in a heartbeat, but I think the UFC doesn't want to risk it. I think that JDM would fight him in a heartbeat. I don't think the UFC wants to risk it. Those are fights I think that the other guy would take. I'm not saying they're dodging him. I think the UFC is choosing not to do it because they don't want to risk it, because MVP can beat, I think, a lot of the top guys on, depends on the day, but it's not worth it for the UFC because he's 38 years old. Now, back for this fight. So the 38 isn't great, but also the going up to middleweight and then going back to welterweight and then going up to middleweight and going back to welterweight. That's also not ideal, not at this age especially. So it's definitely dog or pass for me. I am very tempted on Sam Patterson, but I need a better line because I think there's a decent chance he gets styled on the feet. That's my problem. I'll go Page. I'll go decision. Now, as for what my friend JB said in here, I don't think he's chinny at 170. No. I mean, he hasn't really been tested all that much. Like, who here is testing him? Like, Lay Ness would have been the ideal person to test him, but he never really landed. And then Crosby's not the person to test it. Barlow would have been, but he also didn't land anything that clean. He did land a couple, and the chin held up, so that's a good sign, right? And then Trey Waters isn't really a power guy, but my gut feeling is that the weight cut was exactly the problem, and he solved it. Because you look at the guy, and it's like, you would never suggest to this person that he should go down in 155, None of us would, and yet he used to do it. So I think that was the issue with this chin. I don't think he's chinny. I think the bigger problem isn't even his chin; it's the defense. It's the fact that his chin is here. I think that's the biggest problem, and that hasn't changed. What's my honest opinion on Hamzat versus Strickland? Honestly, I've been wrong on both of them a lot. I feel like Hamzat beats Strickland, but I was pretty sure that Fluffy would beat Strickland too. I was fairly confident about it. I didn't bet on it, thank God, but I did bet the fight goes the distance, and I lost there, so I still lost money on it. I lean towards Hamzat. I think he's a different kind of athlete. I shot my shot with DDP. I ended up putting a little bit on him live, and that was a complete flop. He showed that he does have 5-round cardio, and I guess in theory Strickland can make him work, right? But I'm not sure. What's the line on that? Did they put that up yet? It's gonna be here in Newark. I want to go see it. Minus 460 Hamzat. Yeah. I mean, it's another Hamzat fight where I think he's gonna win, but because he's minus 460, I'm gonna convince myself that there's value on Strickland, and then he's gonna maul Strickland, and I'm gonna lose money again. But we'll see. I still got a lot of cards before that one, before I have to think about it. Why haven't they made Ashmuz with Selwady yet? Oh boy, we're not going to get into that one here. That's for sure. Strickland was, yeah, he's a big underdog. I mean, that's my gut reaction. That's what I thought it would be. Where do I live? Weird. I'm in New York City. I'm in Queens, but not far from Newark. How you doing, bro? Oh. At least I made one of us money because I didn't make myself money last week. So that's good to hear. Oh my God. I don't know who it was. I don't remember their name, but I had someone last week come into my comments and they were like, hey, so I love your videos. I'm putting together a parlay based off of your picks. And I'm making sure I should put Charles Johnson, right? And I literally wanted to rip my hair out. I was like, please, for the love of God, do not parlay Charles Johnson. I think he's going to win. Do not put him in your parlay. Lucky if that guy did parlay, I'm lucky enough he got the win, but that was greasy. Not a good bet. Nah, bro, it didn't sound weird. I was just messing with you. I figured you were from the area too. I'm assuming you're also around here. That was you? Oh, man. Well, I hope you took Charles out, but either way, he cashed for you, so that's good. Let's go, bro. New York represent. All right, let's move on. We got 2 more fights. Next up, we've got Luke Riley versus Michael Aswell Jr. Luke Riley, he's going to be 12-0 undefeated. He's 26 years old, 5'9" with a 69-inch reach. Aswell Jr., he's 11-3-0, 25, so he's 1 year younger. He's going to be 1 inch shorter, and he's going to have about the same reach. So I've gone a little longer than I wanted to, and I want to save time for the main event, and I'm not super passionate here, so I'm not going to waste a lot of time here. Michael Aswell, I do think he can give Riley problems. I do think that he can maybe give a similar issue to him that Luft gave him, where Luft was having a lot of success before ultimately getting finished in the 3rd round, and where it did seem like Luft might pull it out. Aswell's a brawler. He's very tough. He's very durable. He can eat your shots, and he'll come back and give them to you 3 times over. He's got very high output. He's always throwing something. He's a good boxer. He does have poor defense, but the chin is pretty good. It has held up for the most part. And he's a solid counter grappler. He can be taken down. Not really going to matter here. Riley is usually the one getting taken down in his fights. And Aswell is not really a great offensive wrestler either, but he could probably take down Riley. I just don't think he's going to consolidate top control, and I don't think he's going to do much damage or do much with it. So my gut reaction is that, Aswell will compete. But I just think that Riley, he's really sharp, and he is really young still at 26. I know Aswell is younger, but I feel like Riley has a better base to build off of, and he's a little bit more skilled, and a bit more talented, and he is faster, he is sharper, and I really like the guy's striking. He does need space to work, and I do think that, Aswell is going to give him problems with that because he's always going to be moving forward, and he's not going to give him a lot of space. But Riley's not one of these guys that I was talking about earlier who really depends on his kicks. He's got hands too. He's got really good hands. So I don't think it's going to matter all that much that Aswell's pressuring him, but I do think it'll give him some issues. And look, I think the line's probably not ideal because I could see Aswell winning this and I could see him making it really close. But at the same time, it's like, all right, Aswell's probably not finishing him. Riley's durable. He can take a shot. We've seen him take shots before. He's also not one of these undefeated prospects who got here without any adversity. The Lou fight, you want to see him face adversity? He faced adversity. But I forgot my original point. But either way, I don't think Aswell is going to finish him. And because of that, then you're depending on Aswell to win a decision on Luke Riley's home turf. And this guy has one UFC fight that lasted about 6 minutes, and he's the co-main event. It doesn't really matter what the UFC wants or what the UFC is doing. They do things for a reason. And I don't believe that the UFC really gets involved in judges' decisions. But Patty versus Jared Gordon happened. And Dana White looking at what's his face, I forget his name, and shaking his head telling him, we're good. Before the decision was read, that happened. And we have clear video of it. That was weird. That was really weird. So it's not ideal. Now, you're not getting Aswell as a favorite. You're not getting him even as a slight underdog. You're getting him at plus 200. It's a narrative thing like that that's probably not true. That's an okay thing to risk with a dog like him, and he will fight for your money. There's way worse underdogs to go with than him. He's a guy who will fight for your money until you put him away, and he's going to try. I just think that there is a skill difference here, and a pretty solid skill difference. And I think that as long as Riley can get off the cage when Aswell is backing him up there, I think he's going to be okay. And I don't really see Aswell taking a huge grappling path. I think it's going to be a war. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think that outside of building Riley, I think the other reason they made this the co-main is because they know there's a pretty high guarantee that this is going to be action. So, yeah, I like Riley to get it done, but probably a dogger pass on the money line. This is on my list of fights to retape. This one, the Jones one, the Kurt Campbell one is the first fight I want to retape before I decide on Danny Silva, but I'm probably not going to touch this one, and I do lean towards the Riley side. JB saying, I'm scared he can kick Aswell in the legs. That's true, too. JB saying he's seen Riley hurt to the body. Up top might be hard. Yeah, I mean, but I don't think Aswell's going to put him away to the body. Like he puts heat. He tries to put heat into it, but he doesn't really have much power as well. Like, yeah, he put away Lucas Almeida, but we haven't even talked about it yet. Like everyone's so hyper focused on all these fixed fights and all this, and it's almost always because they had money on the opposite side of the fix. And of course, the one time where most people had Aswell already, when it came out that Lucas Almeida's hand is clearly broken, no one complained about it, other than me, because I had Lucas Almeida. No one complained about it. Everyone was just like, okay. Like, as a community, we just like, all right, let's carry on. Lucas Almeida came out in there with one hand, one working hand. He couldn't block. He didn't throw that hand a single time, the broken one. We all saw it beforehand that it was broken. We all saw in action that it was broken. And then the Brazilian commission said, yeah, it was broken, but we checked before. It was fine. They just didn't want the fight to fall through. But that was so ridiculous. Good for Aswell for finally getting that UFC win, but like, what a crappy way to finally get it. You think fight goes the distance at -115? It's good. I do think it's going to go the distance, and I am considering fight goes, but it's always scary to bet in a fight like this. How do you think the fight, Ilya? If it happens at 155, I think Ilya can beat him. I think the weight cut's really hard for Islam, but it'll never happen at 155. Never. Riley can crack too. Yeah, I agree. But all right, let's move on. We got the main event. We got Movsar Evloev versus Lerone Murphy. Evloev, he's going to be 19-0, undefeated, 32 years old, 5'7" with a 72.5-inch reach. Lerone Murphy on the other side, 17-0-1, also undefeated, 34 years old. He's 2 years older, 2 inches taller, and he's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. So quick thing I want to talk about here is, look, so Evloev's been out for a year and a half. I'm not going to pretend that I have like some kind of inside knowledge about his injury for why he was out, but I asked Grok, and I asked AI, and I'm going to read it for you guys because that's where I got it from. So I asked it why he's been out for so long, and this is what Grok said. Evloev's last UFC fight was on December 7th, 2024, blah, blah, blah. We know that. He hasn't competed since then, marking an absence of over 15 months. Primary reason for this extended layoff was a severe health issue. Evloev contracted a mystery virus, described as some type of coronavirus, while training in Thailand ahead of a scheduled bout against Aaron Pico. That was in 2025, July, about a year ago. This illness left him feeling extremely unwell, even during light exercises, and forced him to withdraw from the fight. Evloev later revealed that the virus was serious enough to make him fear his fighting career might be over. And then since then, he has recovered, blah, blah, blah. So he's been out for a year and a half. And before I knew that, I thought that was because he's just waiting for a title shot. I thought, he thought like, okay, I can just wait and I'll get the shot. No, he actually had a really bad illness. Unclear exactly what it was, but also from the same Grok, it also said that he had COVID twice before, and then this was some form of COVID. So clearly something there is not great. And that's going to affect your cardio. That's going to affect your training. And I'm assuming that he's okay now, but like we have to think that that's going to have some effect on him. That can't possibly be good, right? And he's 32. He's not 26, 27, where he's super young and it might not matter all that much. Like, he's not old either, but he's 32, and it's that stuff's going to matter. And he's also a guy who pushes a pace, but hasn't always been able to keep it either, and it has slowed down in third rounds. You know, he lost that third round against Arnold Allen. That's the last striker he fought, and that was a while ago, 2 years ago. And he slowed down pretty hard in that third round. He slowed down a bit against Hakeem. He slowed down a little bit against Sterling. And I think that, you know, now you're bringing him in on enemy turf after a year and a half layoff, after an illness that was so bad that he thought he was done fighting. And you're putting him in a 5-rounder, which he hasn't done since before his time in the UFC, because he was champ in M1 at 135, but he was champ there. He had, I think, one fight that actually went all 5, where he ended, I think it went all 5. And I think that was 2019 off the top of my head. So it's been 7 years since he's gone 5 rounds. It's been a year and a half since he's even been in the cage. It's been 2 years since he's fought a striker, and he had a mystery illness that had him on retirement door, right? So all those things are really not ideal, and that added up with the fact that his control isn't all that great. Murphy's get-ups are good, and Murphy's clearly the better striker. That makes me really tempted on Murphy, and I am strongly considering a dog shot, but here's the other thing. On the other hand, even with all that narrative stuff, Evloev has the perfect style to beat Lerone Murphy, and I've always been a fan of Lerone Murphy. I don't believe that I've ever bet against him. I've only bet on him because he's undefeated. He's made me a lot of money. I got bailed out in the Gabriel Santos fight because I had him there, I think either to win 2 units or to win 3 units, and it was at minus 130, I think I bet it. So I got lucky there, but he's made me a lot of money, and he's a guy who I've always believed in. I think he's very, very talented. I wasn't sure if he would actually win a title, but I thought he would get there, and he's one fight away, but he got just about the hardest title eliminator fight he could have gotten. And it's hard because I think he's going to get taken down over and over again. That's the problem, is Murphy gets taken down by everybody. Everyone takes him down, and you watch him in the start of his career in the UFC and you think, okay, he's relatively young, athletic, he's a good striker. The takedown defense will get better. And it never really did. Kuabao, I don't think Kuabao took him down, but I don't remember. Let me pull up UFC stats. That's better for this. So let's see. Let's start from the beginning. Tukhugov took him down 6 times. Silva de Andrade took him down once. Makwan took him down 5 times in the first round. Santos took him down 5 times over 15 minutes. Kuabao did not take him down. Barbosa doesn't shoot. Ige got him down once, and he did spend the entirety of I think it was the first half of the 3rd round on top. No, it was towards the end of the round that he was on top. He spent a couple minutes on top. Emmett took him down 4 times, and one of them he put him in Emmett Airlines. And then Pico also twice. So he's been getting taken down in every fight, and the good thing is he pops back up instantly. But that was probably going to happen either way because Evloev doesn't have great control even against guys who don't have great get-ups. So on one hand, I think Evloev is going to struggle a little bit because his cardio needs to hold up, and he also needs to find a way to separate through the ground game while not really having much time after each takedown, because he's not going to win minutes on the feet, I don't think, Evloev. Maybe a little bit because Murphy will have to worry about the takedowns too, and that could open up opportunities for Evloev in the stand-up. But he's not really going to win moments in the stand-up. Minutes in the stand-up. So then he has to take Murphy down, has to consolidate control enough to actually land some ground and pound or threaten a submission or something and to score. And Murphy's going to make that hard. And also there's one other thing I wanted to talk about. This is kind of, I guess, a narrative assumption thing, but it's just something I was thinking about and not what I'm basing my decisions off of. I'm not even picking Murphy. I'm going to pick Evloev, spoiler alert, but something I'm thinking about is, so the last time Evloev fought was about 1.5 years ago, and it was against a grappler. So even then, this didn't really matter much. The last time this would have mattered would have been 2 years ago when he fought Arnold Allen. But judging, right? In theory, it's been damage over control for quite a while now, several years. In practice, judges haven't really started doing that until about 1 year ago. Actually grading damage over control. And even now, they're not consistent with it. They're not. But they're definitely getting better at being consistent with it. And we're seeing it more now. More and more now, we're seeing guys who, just because they're getting a lot of takedowns or just because they're getting a lot of control, we're still seeing them lose because they're not doing much, neither in the stand-up or with the takedowns once they get them. Evloev hasn't really had to deal with that yet. Because since the last time he fought, 1.5 years ago in Sterling, but they were both grappling there, and neither was doing damage. The other time was Allen. Back then, it didn't really matter. If you got the takedowns, the judges were scoring it, even if you didn't do much with it. So Evloev might have to adjust a little bit, and we don't know how he's going to do that because he's been out of the game for 1.5 years, and he's also coming in after that weird mystery illness. So that's another thing I just wanted to mention because I feel like it could matter. It could end up mattering. And especially because this is also on home turf for Murphy. And again, I don't think most of the time judges have any hometown bias, but sometimes it does happen, and sometimes it's very clear also who the judge is, where they're from, and why they scored it for the person they scored it from. Because they're from the same place. So I can definitely see something happening there with the judges' scorecards for Murphy, especially if, you know, I think people might get a little bit upset if they see that Evloev came out there. He got 15 takedowns, man. How do you not win that fight? Because he didn't do anything with that. You know, I think that's possible. But overall, I think the most likely outcome is that Evloev is going to come out there. He's going to bank the first 3 rounds. He's going to slow down. He won't get knocked out, and he's going to win a decision. That's what I think is going to happen. I think the value is all on Murphy. I think it's dog or pass. I have not played Murphy yet, but I'm strongly considering it, and I'm just waiting to see what kind of number I can get. Because on one hand, if money comes in on Murphy and I miss it, I'm okay with that, I think. I've accepted that. And if it doesn't and I get a better price, great. You know, that's great. But it is dog or pass. And I'm going to say I am rooting for Murphy. I'm a big Murphy fan, and I've never really been much of an Evloev fan. All right, let's catch up with the chat and then get out of here because we were much longer than I wanted to. We're almost at 2 hours, and I got to go. So let me catch up with the chat, and then we're going to get out. Let's see. My guy over here talking about Ilya Islam at 170. Yeah, I don't think Ilya can win that fight. I personally think we've missed the moment on that one. Remember that Ige fight? I think Murphy won that fight for himself with the last flurry. When they got onto their feet, I think it clicked in Murphy's head that, hey, I need to secure this. And he started, I think he was throwing elbows and stuff. I think that's what got him that win. Lerone has sneaky knees up the middle. Yeah, like I really don't think those knees are going to do much. I do like the over, Brian. I do like that. I want to root for Murphy bad, but I just don't know. Yeah, I mean, we can root for him even if we think he's going to lose. Who cares? True. But that was also a little bit different there. Max hadn't been tested in the grappling really ever, other than having to defend takedowns from like Volkan stuff. But he against someone like Charles, he hadn't ever been tested like that. And I talked about it all week and then didn't bet Charles, which I hate myself for. But this is a little different, I would say. Interested in the Silva Campbell fight. I think the line is a little wide. Running back, go back when I talked about it because I agree with you and listen to it, but I can't talk about it again. I already did for a while. All right, guys, I got to go. Thank you guys all for tuning in. It's been a while. Thank you for sticking with me. We got 1,126 of you in here, so I really appreciate it. I really appreciate the support. Please like, comment, retweet, subscribe, follow, whatever platform you're on. Do something to help out the channel. I really appreciate it. Shorts will be out on Friday, ideally, hopefully. And that's all I got. Thank you guys. Peace out and good luck this week.